Alrighty, and with that, we'll go ahead and get started. So I just wanted to thank everyone for their willingness and ability to join us today for today's session. My name is Olivia Heinsroth. I am a program manager with Reach Out and Read, and today I am joined by Mindy Etheridge, who is here to help me present about a new material that we are previewing and launching on our website. Thank you so much for sharing space with us today. As I mentioned, today's session will be recorded, and this recording will be available afterwards on our website as well as in a follow-up email following today's session. Before we get started, I just wanted to give you a preview as to what you can expect from today's session. So today we're going to start with introductions, then do an overview of the entirety of the Staff Refresher Toolkit, as well as the companion document, slide deck, and feedback form. And then we're going to talk about ways that you can rally your team to meet that and maintain that 75% training requirement through myreachoutandread.org. And then we're going to have a large group discussion and then any final updates that are coming down the pike. So with that, I'll pass it off to Mindy.
Thank you, Olivia. My name is Mindy Etheridge. I am a member of the Reach Out and Read board. I actually currently my role is I am a nurse at Hinsdale Hospital in the pediatric department, as well as I am a clinical instructor for nursing students. I did used to run two clinics that I was the site coordinator for Reach Out and Read, and that is how I got involved with Reach Out and Read. So basically today, what we're looking and hoping for is that this is something you can take back to your clinics and be able to share with them as a refresher to the training they may have done a year ago, 2 years ago, maybe 6 months ago, so that your staff can be rejuvenated and bring the program up and to be able to like even give you more tips and things like that today. So how do you want to do this, Olivia, as far as everybody introducing themselves?
Yeah, so just in the chat, if you can pop in your answers to these questions, just share your name, how you're associated with Reach Out and Read. So it could be through a clinic, it could be like Jessica, where it's through the United Way, your role with Reach Out and Read, and what you're hoping to gain from today's session. And hopefully we'll be able to address all of those things that you're hoping to gain through today's session. But with that, we'll let those answers roll in and then we'll kind of get started. So what we're going to do is it's going to be more of an interactive session today. So it's going to start with like a formal presentation where we're going to go over those materials like I discussed. And then at the end, Mindy's going to lead us through group discussions as well as practices that are the best practice for reaching and maintaining that 75% threshold of training. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pop us off to the first section. So why did we create this staff refresher toolkit? So in 2025, this year, Reach Out and Read Illinois realized and recognized a need for continual education opportunities for those that are practicing Reach Out and Read models in their clinics. So this is a way to aid in the reintroduction and reinforcement of those goals, as well as working to refresh clinic teams on the basics of implementing the program. This staff refresher toolkit, which can be found on our website underneath 4 clinics, is not supposed to replace the CME accredited myreachoutandread.org training, and it will not increase your training rate at clinics. So doing this is just kind of an extra thing. It's a way to keep the fidelity of the model throughout the lifetime that you're doing Reach Out and Read at your clinic. It's not a way to replace that Reach Out and Read training that's required for all providers. So the very first thing that you'll see on our website when you go to the staff refresher page is a companion document. And like I said earlier, this is kind of our way of addressing a need that we saw in the community, and we want feedback on this. So if you think that there is something that you see a need for that's not being fit or addressed by our training refresher toolkit, just pop it in the chat or send me an email afterwards, and we'd be more than happy to include it in the toolkit down the road. It is in its first version. I am currently working on a second version of it right now. So like I said, this is still being worked with. It's a living document. It's not a set in stone kind of thing. So the refresher starts with this companion document, and it provides an overview of what is included in the slide deck that you can download. It's a 6 category format with corresponding slide numbers included. You can see it on the right hand side there. So all of this is optional. So if you see a need in your clinic to address the reach out and read model, but maybe not to address the role of the book in the exam room, you can just delete slides 11 through 14, but keep slides 5 through 10. So it's fully customizable to your clinic and your clinic's needs. So feel free to adjust and edit however you see fit. And with that, we'll go ahead and start going through those slides just so you can see a preview of what they look like, so you can get a little bit of familiarity with them. So the slide deck is 22 slides in total, divided, as I said, into 6 categories. And as I mentioned, it's fully customizable. There's a suggested script in the notes section of each of the slides. However, as long as you get the overview and the main ideas from each slide, that's the most important thing. Any of those slides can be taken out, and you're more than welcome to add slides wherever you feel necessary. There are blank ones at the end, so you can get the formatting the same and all that kind of stuff. Let me take a look at the chat. Um, Perfect. Thank you so much, Cindy. So Cindy is sharing those items in the chat just so you can kind of play around with them as we're looking through them together. And so we'll go ahead and get started with looking at those 22 slides. So this is what the first slide looks like. This is the title slide where you can introduce your team and all that kind of stuff. This is a reminder that this is not a substitute for the My Reach Out and Read training, and it does not CME accredited. This gray box at the bottom here is what is written in the notes section. So it's a suggested script for what you can say when you're on this slide. But I would stress that I would remain the same with the script for this slide, because you want to stress to your audience that this does not replace that CME accredited training, and it will not give them credit for doing so. Then we're going to have you introduce your clinic's Reach Out Read team. So specifically your primary contact or on-site coordinator, your medical champion, and anyone else that you feel is very relevant for your clinic to be aware of who Reach Out and Read is being led by in your clinic setting. And again, at the bottom here in this gray box is just suggested scripts for you to utilize with this. It is in the notes section of each PowerPoint slide. We also suggest that you insert a picture of your clinic's Reach Out and Read team here on the right. However, if you don't have one, you can put whatever you want in this section. This is, again, fully customizable to your clinic's needs. This agenda would need to be edited to accommodate any changes that you may make. So this is just how we have it set so far. So we have it set with the Reach Out and Read model, the role of the book, and then the importance of the My ROR staff training. In that first section of the Reach Out and Read model, we go over the mission statement of Reach Out and Read. And again, at the bottom there in the gray box is what's written in the notes section on those slides. So this goes over the entire overarching theme of the mission of Reach Out and Read, and how we are working to improve child literacy, familial relationships, and the relationship between provider and child, as well as the family. And then I would also stress to your audience that Reach Out and Read is the only early literacy program to be endorsed by the American Academy of Pediatrics. It's a very big deal, and it's something that we'd like to stress to our audience as much as possible. We are, again, backed by evidence. So this slide kind of just reiterates to your audience that this is not just us handing out a book. It's evidence-based. It is evidence practiced. And in the lower left-hand corner, that is that notes section again. And then we go over the benefits. So this slide, you can just read off the benefits that are written here. You can include yours, maybe a personal testimony or anything like that. But the personal benefits that benefit your patients, as well as your clinic setting and clinic morale as well too. And then this slide right here has a video on it. It is embedded in it, and it's practicing Reach Out and Read at the 6-month visit. Feel free to keep it in there. You can delete this part, whatever your time has. That's what I would suggest you make do with. But this slide includes that 6-month visit. There are other videos that you can get on the Reach Out and Read YouTube channel. So maybe it's not 6 months that you want to do, but maybe it's a 3-year-old visit or a 5-year-old visit. Maybe capturing this slide with that video would be more relevant to your audience. The next section is the role of the book in the exam room. So here we go over how to select a book. And there's a lot written in the notes section here because we want to make sure that your audience feels comfortable with selecting a book. Usually this is where one of the main challenges arise, where they've done the training, they understand the benefits, they get why we're doing Reach Out and Read, but maybe in practice they're like, I don't know if this book is more relevant for a 6-month-old or a 3-month-old. So this goes over how to select that book and what things to keep in mind when you are selecting that book, such as making sure that they're culturally relevant, meeting that linguistic need, so maybe adjusting it to make it more of a bilingual book rather than a monolingual book. and making sure that they know the difference between board books, hardcover picture books, and paperback picture books as well. And then here we discuss anticipatory guidance and modeling. So this is a way to reiterate in that training that this is not just a book distribution program. This has a model to it. There is fidelity that needs to be maintained in order to get the full benefits of the program and why they're doing this. So it reiterates that you should not be handing out a book at the completion of the well-child visit, that you should be using it at the beginning and using it throughout that entire well-child visit to do that anticipatory guidance. In the bottom there are suggestions for ways to talk about this with your audience, but just making sure that they understand that this is not just giving a book to a child as a thank you and see you later kind of situation. It is more of an anticipatory guidance, using it as a tool throughout that entire well child visit. And then another component to this section is talking about the literacy rich environment. However, we do know that this looks different depending on your clinic and your clinic's needs. Not everybody has the ability to put posters on the walls. So this kind of is one that I would suggest editing to meet your clinic's needs. This talks about in an ideal world what the clinic setting would look like. So it includes making displays about books, reading and family literacy, providing gently used books for families to read at home in that waiting room setting, involving volunteers in your waiting room to read with the children that are there waiting for their exams, as well as incorporating posters throughout the clinic setting. So that way they can see what a literacy rich environment looks like, where they're encouraged to read, they're encouraged to read together. But again, this might be different based on your clinic's needs. So this slide might not be relevant for you to include. And then the final section is the myror.org training. This just goes over why we're doing the training. So not everybody has it in their DNA to be gung-ho about doing a required training that it's extra for them to do, that might not be paid, that might not be all that kind of stuff. So this kind of goes over why we have the myror.org training. So this goes over what it is, how long it's suggested to take, that it is CME accredited, and who is required to take this training. At the very bottom, there is, again, the suggested script for this section. I would suggest sticking to this if this is a need of your clinic. If you're at that 75% training or above and you don't see this as relevant, again, you can take that out. And then this just gives a more why to why we're doing the training. So not just you're required to do it, but also you should feel compelled to do it because it does XYZ. So this training encourages the maintaining of a fidelity to the model. This training encourages or ensures that every child that receives a Reach Out and Read program and is engaged with the Reach Out and Read model receives the same type and quality of program as a child in California that's receiving the program, as a child that's in New York that's receiving the program. This just reiterates that it is a nationwide program that is adopted in clinic settings. So we want to make sure that a child receives the same quality of program regardless of where they're from. And then the last section includes mine and my colleague Cindy's information. If there is any questions that maybe you don't have the answer to, you're welcome to leave this in, delete it, whatever's relevant to you. And then, as I mentioned, there is a whole bunch of blank slides here. So you can edit and include whatever you want in it. If there's something that's not being met, maybe you want to talk more about research, but we don't have that here, you can include a research section or something like that. And then following all of that, the one thing that we do request is that if you do utilize any of these materials, to please take our staff refresher feedback. It is an 8-question digital form that's used to gather practical feedback on how we're doing with this materials, if there's a gap in the curriculum or anything like that. And this is kind of what it looks like. So it just asks for your name, your clinic, and then just basic questions about like, did you receive and facilitate the program and all that kind of stuff. And with that, I'll pass it off to Mindy. Or I should stop there and ask, does anybody have any questions about any of those materials that I've covered so far? Alrighty. With that, I will pass it off to Mindy, who was going to share some strategies and incentives that maybe they've used or she's used in the past, or suggestions for things that you can use beyond. And then feel free to pop any suggestions or incentives or strategies that you've used in the chat to help your clinic meet and maintain the 75% training rate.
So based on my experience in the past, and I'm going to kind of make this more informal and see how things have been going in your clinics as well to those that are on here. Um, a lot of times the clinics will kind of get into a certain routine with doing things. So one thought is to try and talk to the physicians, talk to the people that are handing off the books, or at least gathering the books. When are they doing that? What time of the appointment? There's different ways of doing that. Sometimes they'll come and grab the book before the appointment, like as they're walking in. There was one clinic at the site meeting that had said that they prep the books ahead of time. I mean, that's a good time saver, making sure that it's an appropriate book. But what kind of things I would troubleshoot and see what's working at your clinic, maybe work with the providers and see what may help them make a better workflow for them too. Maybe putting a book in the door before they head into that, have the medical assistant or the nurse or whoever's rooming them have one in their appropriate age. So I'm just kind of curious to how you guys may have seen it working in your clinics too. I don't know if that's something I can do, Olivia, is ask them for feedback, or I was just looking in the chat and seeing. I think incentives as well could be the books that we're getting from Reach Out and Read. It, I feel like they've got such great incentives for us. I know with providing us extra books to be able to hand out. And sometimes the clinics can have a hard time getting the funding for books. So anytime free books are, able to be given to the clinics is something huge. So that's a huge incentive. We want to make sure we are doing the right things, keeping with fidelity and doing all of that metric information data, so to speak. But also the headquarters, they're very generous with helping us with stocking our books and those kind of things. And that's so appreciated. So those are kind of things that, hey, I want to make sure everybody's, staying up to date in their learning and their training. And that gets us more free books as well.
And I know Jessica as well as Rocio. I know that you are both newer to the Reach Out and Read program, so getting 75% was probably difficult, but we know you're there because you became an active clinic. So is there any suggestions from either of you two for things that you have done or things that were successful for you in trying to get that 75% training rate that you'd like to share?
One, I'm going to pop on to, I feel like not only just the providers who are handing off the book, or discussing the book in the clinic, well checks, is also the rest of the staff and making them aware of, from the front desk people who see the books get delivered, and building the excitement in the clinic, and talking with the staff, the medical assistants, the nurses. They don't necessarily have to go through the training because they're not the providers handing the book, but explaining how important this is and how important reading is, and all that it entails. And as part of it, this is not just it's a medical checkup, but the brain is a huge part of physical wellness. So just kind of, making sure you talk to those people too. I know when I was in the clinic, they all knew exactly what I was doing and how important it was too. Oh, I see Cindy just posted something.
Yeah, so Cindy said that she has seen clinics offer simple things as incentives, like lunch or a coffee cart in the mornings. I'm also always available via email to discuss ways that we can help you incentivize your staff too. Maybe it's something as simple as we will do uh we'll sit down and do like an online session where we'll walk through the training and like everybody can log on at the same time and do it together. It can be something like that, or anything like that, and I can help you brainstorm on a one-on-one basis depending on what your clinic needs are too. And then with that, we're going to pass it off to our large group discussion. So these are just some suggested questions. However, I want this to be open and informal. So if you have any questions or any comments or any suggestions for our training companion documents and all those kinds of things, so far, feel free to pop them in the chat. Otherwise, Mindy is going to kind of answer these questions for how she has seen these work. And then we'll just kind of bounce off one another as well.
So the first question is, what are the some struggles you're facing upholding the Reach Out and Read program to its established standards? I personally found the main training, that the docs had to do wasn't a huge issue. It was more just making sure the books were done at the appropriate, given at the appropriate time, that they didn't forget the books. That having these Reach Out and Read books are for the wellness visits. You might have siblings that are older. Another thing that would be really good to have if your clinic has the capacity is like used our extra books, not for the Reach Out and Read program, but for siblings, so they don't feel left out as too. So you're encouraging reading. Sometimes the waiting room will have like books that you can hand out. But I felt that that was probably the biggest struggle that I faced. And it was really communication and just trying to keep, talking with the staff. And again, I kind of want to go back that I feel like the refresher would be really good, and maybe I'm misspeaking, for the whole staff to see. I don't know. Just letting they don't necessarily go through the whole big training, but just kind of, hey, this is what we're doing and this is the reasoning behind it, just so they have that knowledge. Maybe doing it during a lunch, or if you guys have, a lot of times we would have once a month all clinic meeting, and maybe asking your manager, hey, can I talk for 15 minutes or something like that about Reach Out and Read. That's one way I think that you can kind of address it too. And just seeing what maybe asking the providers, I know there's a lot of teaching clinics too that is part of our Reach Out and Read group dynamic, and seeing if the residents are understanding the importance of it, and talking with them and maybe meeting with them too. And like Cindy said, a coffee cart or something like that, to talk to them and be like, hey, I just want to make sure you're aware of everything. Do you have any questions? Just kind of keep an open communication.
Absolutely. And honestly, that is the way that I foresaw these materials being utilized, is in like that monthly meeting, maybe a bi-weekly meeting, just talking for 10, 15 minutes. And that's why it's so customizable and so short, is because we wanted it to be more of like a high level elevator pitch for Reach Out and Read and its corresponding materials, rather than a deep dive like the 90-minute CME accredited training to be.
Because it can kind of, and because there's something they're doing it that gets kind of routine, and just getting the excitement back. I know, when as site coordinators, when you go to the site support meeting, or if you've been able to attend the fundraiser, it gets you excited, and to remember how exciting it is for the books and the different literature. And you may not have any type of background in literature, but just the love of books. I know personally, just being involved with Reach Out and Read has just, I'm in a book club and I've been in it I just love reading, and I love to be able to talk about it with children. And I still do, even in the hospital setting. So just kind of, bringing it back up, just to get, as like, we said, just to kind of be refreshing everybody's minds and getting them excited again too.
Absolutely. And then I guess, so this is the last slide that we've got going on today. So if there is any of these questions that speak to you, please feel free to pop your response in the chat or come off mute and you can talk as well. But I guess the main thing I would like to know is, how do you foresee Reach Out and Read Illinois specifically working to help you with your clinic needs? Like, is there any a need that's not being addressed or anything like that that we can kind of work to kind of meet the gap there? I know funding is an issue, but we can't always address that kind of situation, so that's unfortunately off the table. But and if there's anything like in practice that we can help you with and assist you with, then I'd love to hear anything that you need, and I'd love to work and brainstorm ways that we can address those issues. I'm so happy to be able to support you. I'm so happy that you were able to get that mini grant and you were able to get up and running and join our program. It's very exciting. So thank you so much for joining us today, and taking time out of your day to further your initiative of Reach Out and Read in your clinic. And then let's see here. Oh, thank you so much. And then I guess with that, we'll just go ahead and go to our last slide, which is just our information. So if you don't have my email address already, I'm the one on the left, Olivia Heinsroth. My email is written there on the bottom left, but as I mentioned, this will be recorded on our website, and my information is literally plastered all over our website. So if you have any need or anything like that, feel free to shoot me an email at any time. I'm usually available and I usually respond quickly. But I'd love to brainstorm with you if there's any issue or situation that you're facing in your clinic that you don't understand or know how to navigate. I'd love to help you address those issues and situations and move forward with that. But Mindy, any last final thoughts?
No, I would just encourage you to really embrace the program and keep communication open with your staff. And I really think that this has been a well done PowerPoint presentation, Olivia. I think you've done a really good job. I think this would have definitely come in handy had, if I was still in my clinic, I definitely would have used this. I think it's very easy and to read, and I think it's just great to get the staff excited again. You did a great job.
I don't do it for the praise, I do it for you. Um, but thank you all so much for joining us today. As mentioned, this recording will be posted on our website. If you need anything in the interim, just please let me know if there's anything that I can do for you. As I mentioned, this is the first version of this, so what's downloadable now on our website might be different in a month or two. But I mean, the overarching summary and things that you'll benefit from the PowerPoint will just be increased. It won't be decreased. There won't be things missing. It'll just be there's more options for you to present to your clinic. But thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I hope you stay safe and keep reading.